Authorities say the man responsible for killing 7 people at a 4th of July parade in Highland Park, Illinois, confessed to the attack.
That's right. State officials say the 21-year-old suspect had also considered carrying out a second shooting. After the massacre in Illinois, he allegedly drove to Madison, Wisconsin. Police say he came across another 4th of July celebration there and, quote, seriously contemplated another attack. The gunman is charged with 7 counts of first-degree murder and is being held without bail.
CBS News correspondent Adriana Diaz joins us now from Highland Park. Hi there, Adriana. We know from authorities that police confiscated weapons from the suspect in 2019 after he threatened to kill his family. And authorities also say that he legally purchased the gun used in the parade attack. Do we know any more, Adriana, about how that was able to happen? And is the state doing anything to address that?
Well, Elaine, the weapons that were confiscated in 2019 were actually blades. What happened there was he had an episode of some sort in the house where, he was threatening suicide, threatening members of his family. The police came to the home. They confiscated those weapons. But then there was no action that would have put him on some kind of list to not be able to buy a weapon after that. And so, what happened is these are some of the loopholes involved in legislation that's meant to prevent people who make threats from getting weapons. Red flag laws, many states have. There's a lot of discussion about that. But unless there's something that actually puts you on a list or somebody reports you or there's an official complaint, this person may not be in the system. And so the suspect, not only was he not flagged in this way officially in a way that would have prevented him from buying guns, his father actually signed off on him being able to purchase a gun. Earlier on, you need someone to sign off when you're getting the license that you need to purchase a gun, depending on your age here in Illinois. And so he purchased the guns in the past. He purchased a firearm that he used here legally, and that was really the crux. That's what broke open this investigation. Chris Van Cleve, as you guys know, sat down with the head of the ATF here in this area, as well as the police chief in Highland Park, and they told Chris that when they traced the gun, it dinged him immediately. And that doesn't always happen because people often get guns through straw purchasers, other people, folks that have clean records buying a gun to give to someone else so that it's not as easily traceable. But in this case, the suspect bought these guns legally. He used one of them here, where the massacre occurred, had another one in his car when he went up to Wisconsin and did end up turning around.
Adriana, I'm a little curious about the timeline here because, you say that the suspect faced this police raid for those blades at his house in 2019, and then the father signed for him to purchase a gun. Did that happen after this police encounter or before? Do you know? Because to me, that seems like it could be significant in terms of whether or not the father might be open to any kind of liability in this case.
And that's the exact question we're asking, Tanya. We actually reached out to state investigators today asking that question. Are you guys looking into the father? Could he possibly face charges? They said, they couldn't answer. They said this all has to play out through the judicial system. But that is an important question. We don't know the exact timeline of events. What we do know is in 2019, blades were taken away from him. So I imagine if there were guns that under his name in the house, they would have been confiscated as well. But he was able to buy 5 firearms legally, 5 of them, after this episode in 2019, and one of them was used on the street behind me, where people were gunned down, where he was perched above. It's
Elaine and
the nightmare people have been describing is unbelievable.
And Elaine and I were discussing earlier, this seems to point to some of the weaknesses in these red flag laws, because unless somebody is compelled to flag you, right, whether these police officers who went to his home and removed those blades were compelled to flag him or not, would make all the difference as to whether he would come up, right, in some kind of database.
And these are families. Families, families have issues, families have dynamics. And so, there was another story I was covering where the mother of someone who, the mother of the FedEx mass shooter in Indianapolis, she had tried to get a red flag law, against her son. But in the process of all that, he got really upset and he took it out on her. And so, when you report your child or your family member or your loved one, sometimes that that does blow back at you. And sometimes you have to make the decision, okay, we're going to work through this together. I'm going to trust you, or whatever it is. So it's not an automatic thing. And when these red flag laws do happen, you know, human beings are making decisions about whether or not it's worth it to do that, what the risk they think is.
Right.
They also don't want to set that person off. And so it's really convoluted. But the way they're supposed to work is anyone who is a threat to themselves or someone else can have these weapons taken away from them by court order, and then, you know, not able to purchase weapons, you know, for the period of time that it all plays out. But in reality, it's not so clear cut.
Yeah, I just wonder how it is that if knives are taken away, knives seen as a potentially lethal weapon, why that doesn't automatically sort of trigger within the system. I know this is a question other people have raised. For future purchases that might be made, it would seem to logically follow that if something is taken away because of a fear that it will be used potentially as a lethal weapon, in the future down the road, it would make sense that there would be some kind of pause if a purchase then is attempted by that same individual. But these are questions, as you say, that are still continuing to play out, and we'll have to see what officials say down the road.
We'll have to figure out ways to tighten those red flag laws if they're going to be useful. All right, well, Adriana Diaz, thank you so much for your reporting. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, ladies.